Good evening, folks, and welcome to another session from the Old Wise Asylum. Hey! Well, without further ado, let's set the scene.
It starts with Israel attacking Iran. The plan is for either Iran or for China to retaliate after Iran is struck with a nuclear weapon. At that point, there will be a limited nuclear exchange in the Middle East, followed by a ceasefire. He heard this being planned in this meeting. This is being choreographed. The idea is that as the world looks upon this with horror, then they will demand from their governments that there are heavy controls over travel, over communication, over people who meet, over people who protest in the streets. And because people will be driven into fear by this, they'll request and demand and insist on heavy controls from their governments, which will be justified. And this is where you're going to kind of get the martial law situation in all the Western countries.
Think quite carefully about the conscription. Think quite carefully about the conscription. Think quite carefully about the conscription.
Say no.
White male goes to war. The women will be left with subcultures.
To think quite carefully about the conscription.
They simply say no. And that's what we all should do, because this will end if we simply say no. simply say no. And that's what we all should do. Because this will end if we simply say no. And that's what we're here to do today. They simply say no. And that's what we all should do. Because this will end if we simply say no. No.
If the white male goes to war, the women will be left to the subcultures.
And this is where you're going to kind of get the martial law situation in all the Western countries. And then, he said, then the real war starts.
Ooh, lots going on at the moment. Have you seen what they're doing to Ireland at the minute? Slotting in NGO fruitcakes, laying it down. Any white guy talking about immigrants is a terrorist. What is going on? That's Ireland. It's insidious what they're doing in Ireland. You've got 90,000 NATO troops currently on an exercise in East Europe. You've got bigger bombs going off now in Russia and Ukraine. Russia smashed to pieces a big ammo dump supplied by NATO. Things are getting a little bit hot, and there's talk, murmurings, the conscription people. And if you look at the title image on this stream, if you've got to see it, it's King's Proclamation. And this fat-fingered fraud, he's going to make that proclamation, is he not? Now, my problem is this, ladies and gentlemen. The people that are going to be called to conscription will be whites and blacks. You know why? Because we're the same. Give or take. Who's the ones that are going to say, oh no, it's against religion? Yeah? Well, if it works for them, it can work for you. You really have to get into your minds now that this is the next game that they're going to put on the table. All the while, you've got these low-grade subcultures flooding in everywhere. As if the white males go to war, you women are going to be left to them subcultures. And look at what's happening in Ireland. Who are the Garda protecting? Why are the Garda protecting them? Because the majority of them people in them Garda uniforms, they're not Irishmen. They're mercenaries. Private security. This is what the Empire's done forever. The main thrust of what's done that's nasty is done by the private. It used to be the Hessian. Now you've got all the fruitcakes from Eric Prince's Blackwater. You've got all these little freaks with a security certificate, what do they call it? I forgot the name of it, that are all over the shop. Can you see the picture that they're forming here? And who's going to be these security people? The subcultures. Against your women. Against the older ones. I mean, the good news is, and this is the good news, you see, this system, this UN immigration open border garbage, has managed to wipe the floor with the pussies in the suits because there's nothing about them. You know, they're either blackmailed, they love it because the mummy and daddy own the land. Well, they're not going anywhere anyway, they're not going to go to war. Or they're these young fruit bats that have been programmed since 1997 through such as common purpose. Yeah. But there's one thing they haven't counted on. And that's Generation X, because we're just a little bit too old to be going off to war. And I'm not so sure those of us that are left still have our capacity. They're not screwed up on drugs, medications or alcohol. Might just have a bit of a surprise there because we are very creative. You know, so it's not good what's going on here. So you've got two options with what's going on with this war mode. You've got all the focus on the Ukraine. 90,000 NATO troops plus. Currently on exercise. Up there. In the old Ukraine. Around that area. You know, the weaponry's souping up now as to what they're using. The explosions are getting bigger. The hardware that's going in there is more superior. Is that the black, the diversion? Or just to keep it quiet on Israel because, of course, they've still to do the heifer. They've still to blow the shit out of the mosque before their fruitcake messiah can be slapped on the throne. However, the mark of the beast has to be offered first also. And until that mark of the beast is ready, Elon Musk, they're not quite there. So what are they doing? Are they going to militarise everything because of Ukraine? Perhaps. And maybe we've jumped the gun slightly with the Middle East, but then we have to consider the heifers are 3-year-old this year. They have to be done at 3 years old. So something's going down this year, whether it's 1, 2, 3 or 4 big things, I don't know. But what's going on in Ireland, you've got to look at that and see that that is a blueprint for how they're going to play this shifted to martial law. Now they've got this fruitcake that can't even speak English from Africa, planted on in Derry now, in Northern Ireland. Just planted on there. Shoved on there, SDP, okay? Shoved on, nobody voted. There it's gobbing off, saying any white Irish that have anything to say about immigrants who have come there to live peacefully. My ass. We're terrorists. You've got Mormons and such on in this country, the UK, well, corporation, that are not white. You've got that prick in London, Sadiq Khan, Nation of Islam, which is connected to the Muslim Brotherhood. You know, these are imperial, formed and controlled operations. The fanatic side of Islam. You've got that going everywhere. Now, for me, it's like, there's a conundrum that I need answering here, and that is this. It's clear, the priesthood, the Talmudists, in copious amounts of lectures that I've seen, are very clear that in their eyes, Islam is their broom, and that they put that in first to sweep away readiness for them to come in and buy it up, like they're doing in Palestine. You know, they're selling land now. The soldiers are now learning bricklaying. This is the game they play. And I want to know this. You guys, you Muslims that have been born here in the 3rd generation now, where are you on this? Are you going to fall into this shit? Or are you happy with the country you lived in? Because remember this, we didn't force you to become English or even Christian when we invited you. Well, we didn't invite you. The Crown did, the Imperial Empire, because that's who you work for, if you're down that line. Where are you at this? Yeah, are you going to jump into this? Or are you, like everybody else, have you seen your religion for what it is? It's control. It's about control. It wants to kill you, it wants to stone you, behead you, just basically tell you what to do in every single aspect of your life. That's the burning question now that needs to be answered by the native Muslims, because we, native English, Scottish, Welsh, we need to know. Because we need to know quick, where are you? Are you sat there waiting in the wings? Yeah. Because the only way, as described in the Quran, that the prophecy, the Christians and Muslims will fight together, can only come about if we mutually agree. But we can't mutually agree knowing full well, because of course I've read your doctrine, that you'll play along for a certain amount of time, and then when the time comes you'll start to enforce your own nonsense, because of course deception, as with the Talmud, is a part of your hadith and your surah. I know this. I know this because I've studied it. Yes, there is no deception when it comes to me understanding who you are. You know? So where are you? Because we need to know. And that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. However, that aside, now let's have a look at what's going on with this war. Because when you get into the doctrines that the Israelis, or the priesthood, the Orthodox fruitcakes, are discussing, they see Gog and Magog as coming down from Russia. Yet we know that Putin and the elite in Russia are Israel, and vice versa. So why would they then push down into that? I'm not so sure that that's correct. But of course, you look at the other side of it, and their plan is that there'll be a huge attack on Israel, and then the West comes down, and war begins between the Christian Zionists, which are not Christian at all, and Islam. And people forget this. There's a very small minority of Jewish Zionists when you compare it to the amount of Christian Zionists. It's massive. The amount of Christians, they are the problem. And Trump is King Cyrus in the eyes of this script. For all his wind and piss, and all his great speak, and all his great talk, and him running around at the moment grabbing this emotional attachment you've got to him because everybody's beating him up and he's good, nobody loves him. Well, King Cyrus was a Zoroastrian, ladies and gentlemen, the arbitrator, invited into Babylon to take it over by the Babylonian elite. King Cyrus emancipated the fruitcakes that had been captive in Babylon, the Canaanites that called themselves Jews today, which is nothing of the sort. They were actually Judahites. Captive. He released them to build the second temple that the man that Christian Zionists claim to represent came to destroy. You can't have it all ways, you Christian Zionists. And I'm speaking mainly to Americans. You evangelicals, you don't know your ass from your elbow. There are some churches over in America that speak sense, but in the main, they seem to have black pastors. Interesting, I have to say. So, Trumpet, he's not what you think. And I've been telling everybody this since he came on the scene, and that lost me all the attention from America when I started preaching who Trump really was. The fact that his election campaign was flailing until Robert Mercer and Renaissance Technologies came in, gave him the mantras that he then used in his election, make America great again, etc., etc. And off it went. Boom. You look at some of the motorcades that Trump's using when he's whizzing around America to do his speeches, and he's crying. At the same time, while he bigs himself up from launching warp speed. That motorcade doesn't look like is what you get for somebody who isn't a president. You know, there's a lot of talk in America about the fact that some of the bills he signed off on that pretty much leave it that he was still the commander-in-chief. Yet we've been told that Obama's been running Biden, which again wouldn't surprise me. we've looked at the potential, because some of these black pastors in America have shown us through the translations of the actual Aramaic and Hebrew terms in the Bible when it's speaking of the Antichrist is Barack Obama. No, I don't know for sure, but them translations are correct. But the Antichrist can't come in until the mark is offered, and that's going to come through Elon Musk, who's into Neuralink. Tesla, which he thinks a car company, which is really a database collection centre for AI. You know, there's so much people need to know that they don't know because they're not looking. And especially these people that look at Elon Musk as some kind of hero. My Twitter doesn't go anywhere. It goes nowhere. It's so shadow banned, you wouldn't believe it. So Elon Musk is no friend of anybody, apart from the new breed that's building itself up to be the mainstream alternative media. And I did say that I was going to let bygones be bygones, but I've been watching a few little things lately. Oh, and I can see exactly what Alexia Jones is up to. You are one fat piece of work, pal. And it's not going to work, because you've too much that's undermined you in the past that my guess is going to come flooding out all over the internet as we move forward on this, just to show everybody that you didn't sneak into Bohemian Grove, son. You were led in. You were led in. They let you take pictures. They didn't bother you at all because you didn't sneak in, sunshine. It was part of the big game. As Bill Cooper told everybody when you pretended on your little radio show way back then in the early 90s that you were his buddy. He made it quite clear he weren't your buddy, didn't he, son? He told you were going to kick the living shit out of you, is what he said. Because William Cooper was the man, as far as in America, on his own radio show, giving you the truth. You know, when somebody sets up like that, and he were a port-up force with William Cooper, because he were a very smart man, he definitely gained sight in the fifth. Because he started to undo the symbolism of Star Wars, all these films, to show people that what he was talking about was real. He was the man that told us what was going to happen 6 months after he said it, in relation to they're going to do something drastic in New York, and then they're going to be chasing people in caves in Afghanistan. And that was 9/11. So when a man comes up like that all those years ago, the elite have to create an opposition to that. And Alex Jones was that creation. You know, forget what he's doing now. What he's doing now is improved on what he did before, because his Achilles heel back in the early days, up to 214, it showed itself in the fact that he never slated Israel, although he did early on, but then never did again, because all his funding and his financing was coming from the Mongol Khazars. It's still the same today. There were one or two old school guys' faces that were in there then that are still in there now. So if you're going to set yourself up with Alex Jones because you think it's the gig to go to, and I'm surprised at some of the people that are jumping on board, and I can see them censoring themselves, I can see them changing the ways, and you're only doing it to suck up to Alexia. Yeah, that's what you're doing. I can see it. Well, shame on you, and you're sucking yourself up to the shit. Just because you think you're going to get your pets mean prizes, you're going to get the views, you're going to get the exposure. So I am disappointed in quite a few people that are jumping on board with that. Very disappointed, in fact, because some guys that are jumping on board have a lot of air to them. But obviously, the feet are clay, because, of course, they're jumping back on board because they're the pets mean prizes. And that's the only reason they're doing it. And I can see it working. As they give up more, censor themselves more, oh, it gets a little bit bigger for you. Well, fuck you. You shilling bitches. You know, there's some serious stuff going on at the moment. And if you think that this new breed of fruitcakes is going to lead everybody out and into this so-called heaven on earth malarkey, or is going to usurp the deep state, you really need to think again. Like Hitler, he said everything that everybody wanted to hear. You see, this is the thing about the West. We only ever listen to him going, and we haven't got a clue what he's talking about because we're all fake and we don't speak German. But there's been some interesting translation that's been going on over the last year where guys are translating what he's saying as a narrative into English speak so you can hear what he said. And he said everything that everybody of the day wanted to hear. Well, who else is doing that? Would that be King Cyrus? Well, I think it would be. Persians, people. Mongols. Iranians. Holy See. Palestine, now fully controlling Sunni Islam. Controlled the British Isles through the House Stanley since the Breakspears left for China. So that's what? Mid-1300s, perhaps. You know, when the Angevins had made such a cock-up of it, Henry II specifically, and Eleanor of Aquitaine, they needed to pull it back through, and Edward I sort of did that. But he was still tied in and borrowing from the Venetians, was old Edward I. We've explored the fact that the original Templars on England specifically were Christian. They weren't Solomons. And, you know, Freemasonry for quite a long time has represented, who claims to represent the Templars, but it's not the same Templars that maybe your granddaddy told you all about. And so they've been usurped completely. And they're building this shit. They are building their own noose because they are the scapegoat. Hoodwinked as they are. Can you not see your thesis is being used against you because you've built the very thing you thought you were using against everybody else? I've been trying to tell you this since 2001, chaps. In fact, before then I was telling you 90s because I could see through it and you couldn't. So, what a mess. But let's look at what's going on. You've got 90,000 NATO troops currently on exercise in Eastern Europe. The game's up in over there. Ukraine, they've had it. Their military is absolutely, is gone. So if that war's to continue, it cannot be with Ukrainians alone. But, again, the game on the table. And I say this because the effort is 3 years old in this year. Is it just diverting attention from what the fruitcakes in Israel are actually doing? You know, you've got all this going on in the universities over in the US. It's quite ridiculous, to be honest. But look what's opposing it. It's not like Americans are opposing. It's Palestinian shit. And I've said before, I don't give a shit about Palestine. I don't give a shit about Israel for the simple reason both camps bring up the children to despise and kill the other. But when you've been doing that for 70 years, it's embedded. And naturally, at some point, them two forces are going to come together. We should ring fence it and let them have it. Let them snot the living daylights out of each other. What do we care? This is England. America's America. We have to see that these freaks have got their paws in everything. And they've got their paws in everything because they're operating for these Holy See families, which are not just Catholic. They're WASP families as well. I mean, a lot of Knights of Malta are also tied in to what we would class as Protestant organisations and operations. And the Jesuits are set up specifically to infiltrate the Protestant Reformation. And the way they did that was to take over Freemasonry. From the get-go almost, i.e. 1700s. So this is why they've been able to go back into the background of the Jesuits. And it's now all you see is Freemasonry. Well, that's deliberate because the Freemason and its entirety. You are the scapegoats. And you're all supporting the no-hard judge, 21st degree, Scottish Rite. That's the no-hard judge. The Goyim that's going to judge the goyim on behalf of the chosen ones. I mean, how thick can you get? And more importantly, now you can see that that's happening. Why can't you accept it and acknowledge it and show that you're a man and sort it out? Well, that's probably because it's the baby boomer effect, unfortunately. And then a lot of Gen Xers are in there now, following the same, sucking the shit out of the same asses. It's not good, folks, and it's running our military, it's running our politics, it's running our local councils, it's running the entire corporate system through BlackRock and Vanguard, and in its entirety. The whole gig ties back to BlackRock and Vanguard, because they are, you might say, what would be the best way? If you think back to Noah's Ark, it had ramps going up, didn't it? And everything went in 2 by 2. So BlackRock and Vanguard are those ramps that are pulling in everything through the Middle Temple to the Inner Temple. So everywhere the British Empire has its mitts, it sucked up your assets, it sucked up your everything, your estates, the lot, into this Mongolian, Turkic, Khazarian, Persian, Iranian arc. And it's neither of the 3 programs, is it? It's neither Judaism, it's neither Islam, it's neither Christianity. So it doesn't give a toss. It doesn't care, because it's not on a side. It's positioned itself as the arbitrator, which is what Zoroastrianism did. In the Mithraic tradition, it split it into a Trinitarian. So it could arbitrate the dark, the light, the positive, the negative, the masculine, the feminine, in its own programming, its own system. Man-made, nothing to do with the gods. And it's the egregore that powers it. You think it's God. No, it's the egregore. And as I suggested last week, are not Yahweh and Lucifer the same entity? I'd say absolutely they are. Which is how and why Christendom has been all the time under the control of what Christians would call the Luciferians or satanic cults. But it's all the same, it's all part of the same. And as I said before, as you rise higher into these gigs, no matter which society you're coming from, they all interconnect and become one as you go higher and higher and higher. And that's basically the situation that we're in. And until people start to get a grip of this. But look what's happening in Ireland and how they're actually moving it. So now you've got the Garda putting barricades up around villages and not allowing the villagers to go outside of their own villages. You've got some fruitcake African woman that can't speak English preaching down now that any white Irish that speak ill of these immigrants who she claims have come here for peace and love, my ass, are terrorists. You've got this conscription looming, people. Now, back in the days, in the older generations, they were thick as pig shit. To the point that when the First World War was announced and declared, everybody celebrated. That's how thick they were. Stupid and dumb. Yeah? They did it again in Second World War. Thick as pig shit. Are we as thick as pig shit today? Now, if you've done the dance for the last 4 years, you may be limited in your capacity to grasp this, and you might think it's a good idea to send your offspring, or at least your grandchildren, off. Because that's the baby booming mindset. I mean, I'm sick to the death of listening to folk sat in their house, in the couch, sat in the garden with little campfires, fat as fuck, cigars and joints, giving it, oh, let's get this war going with Ukraine, because they're not going anywhere near it. They're going nowhere near it. They're talking about your offspring. You know, those you spent, what, at least 18 years nurturing. Now, you might not have done a good job. Doesn't matter. You still had to nurture them kids till they were 18. Did you do that for these arsehole Mongol Khazars? who have every single dipstick in a suit up there in the so-called La La Land, moving it in for them. This is serious stuff, people, and you know, you've got to get this message out now. You've got to get it out to your sons and daughters, and especially to your grandchildren, if they're of an age where they're going to get picked up for this shit. If they don't have any sense about them, then realise that they don't have to actually go. This is about picking up the white race and the blacks, native blacks of the West. Because we're the guys that will do it. All these Johnny foreigners won't. Oh, I can't do it, religion. Right, fine. That's okay, pal. If it's good for the goose, it's just as good for the gander. Can you see now why they've made you all hate your religion? Because they expect that you can't say, oh, it's against religion. Because Christian Zionism, of course, which is the only game on the table in Western Christendom, with any power or clout, that allows it. In fact, it fucking loves it. It loves it. So, people really need to start to push this. Kids, you do not need to go for this. Kids, they can't force you to do this. But more importantly, you mums and dads have to back your kids. You're the ones that have to say, get your fucking hands off my offspring, you bunch of piss faces. Piss faces. That's a new one. Anyway, so, rant over. But I'm sick of listening to these shitheads, baby boomers, giving it the big, oh, let's war and let's get it going. While they sat there with their big fat fucking bellies, munching on takeaway, with a joint in their mouth. And especially quite a lot of jocks. I mean, some of these jocks who think they're Jews. What? You're the most demented idiots I've ever come across in my life. You really believe it, don't you? That's how stupid you are. Well, fuck off over there, son. Now, if you're going to be if you were chatting shit like that on a live stream with an hard hat on and a rifle on front line, you might have some credibility. But you sat in your living room, in your garden, talking it up for everybody else's offspring. You useless pieces of shit. And I think we might start taking a list of these tossers that do this. You've got hoity-toity kids now giving it the big, conscription, because they talk posh. They're not talking about themselves, or their cousins, because they want to shag their cousins, don't they? They want babies. They're talking about your kids. Talking about you, remember, all the generations, they put you in service. But look what's happening in Ireland. The road blocking villages so the whites can't get out. This is how they're going to encroach it. You've got Canada. One city now in Canada has made it compulsory. You cannot leave the city without a QR code. You have to press your fucking phone or your arm, if you have to do that, for the QR code to go out your city. See, I know it's going on all over in bits and parts, but that's how they do it, so that you don't see the bigger picture. But this is the mechanic of how they're going to do it across the West. Martial law, the beginning of that video, that audio I just played you. It's a plan, it's choreographed, that they're doing everything they're doing in order they can put us under martial law. Then they can start the war. And then they can force conscription. Do you get it now? And all the security forces domestic will be replaced by... Yeah? Right, well we know what kind of creatures they are and what they like and how they see white girls. Well, there'll be no white males there to do anything about it. This is how important it is that you see past this spell now. Break this fucking spell before it becomes jackboot. And I can't be any clearer than that, ladies and gentlemen. That's exactly what's going on. It's exactly what they're moving forth now. And they're moving it in. They're moving with it now. They're doing it in the soft touch places first. You know, Bill Gates is warning and that Ted Ross. Ted Ross, who's in charge of the WHO, the treaty they said they've scrapped. Now I think, okay, if that's good, if there's enough people showing that they're not having it, the MEPs, but they might have just said that to take the heat off it. So keep your eyes on that as well. Don't believe for a second they don't intend to implement this treaty. So they said they scrapped it, but that could just be to take the heat off it because it's all going to be dealt with in May. So that could be a blag. But if they have scrapped it for this particular period, it's only going to come back again. Yeah, I mean, if they miss it in the spring, they'll go for it in the autumn. You know, the October surprise. This is the kind of way they tend to work. They're always pushing in the spring because that's building for the year. What they start in the spring, they'll build it up to its pinnacle in the summer. So they're following the sun, the seasons, and then it's autumn and it's the harvest. Then they harvest all that they've created in that. Yeah, that's how they work. You know, people call it paganism. It's not paganism. Look, the 3 programs in their entirety have got one function. Because from that one function, the rest of what it does is easy. The function of the 3 programs is to stop you, as an avatar, grounding with the earth in yourself. Which is why they kill all the wise women. The women that are grounded, that are earth, that are in tune with nature. The 3 religions are there to stop you grounding. And that's the reason. Once you ground yourself, then you've grounded. You think of it as an electrical lightning strike from the heavens down. They don't want you to ground that so that it just stays in you, yeah, and they can manipulate you then all day because you'll accept any shit. But once you ground yourself and become connected from the heavens to the earth, that's when you can start to see. You get your vision, you get the lot, and you're in tune with the nature spirits, the spirits of nature. Yeah, the egregores for these religions don't have the same power over you that they do without that grounding. And if you want to understand why they've done that, then you've got to go back to the Rig Veda of the Vedas to fully understand the sylphs, the salamanders, etc. What they really are, because so much of this UFO stuff is to cover that. You know, some of these things that we see are real, but they're not extraterrestrial. They exist and belong to this earth. Sylphs especially. Yeah? They're not UFOs. There are UFOs, but of course, look at what they've done. They've created, what do they do with everything? A synthetic gig. And, you know, you've really got to have studied MKUltra. Not just the little bits that you think, you know, MKUltra was a massive agenda with all different sections. They're all numbered. And there's tons of them. And so a lot of the child molestation stuff where they're saying that it's a lot of it's a setup. I'm not saying they're not being abused, but kids will be abused and the people that are doing it will have masks on. So kids think they've been abducted. Even adults think they've been abducted. And such like. Adrenochrome, all these things, it's part of the MKUltra. Reptilians, Pleiadians, all this stuff. It's MKUltra. Covering and hiding what you get to see when you ground and you open up to the nature spirits. This is what they're hiding with that. It's a synthetic garbage shit to stop you from seeing. When you do see or connect with nature, you wouldn't see it that way. You'd look at it as extraterrestrial, some kind of voodoo shit. Reptilians, all this garbage is all MKUltra stuff. All of it. So you've got to really start to get a grip. But more importantly, you've got to get across to the younger generations that it's them they're after. They're after the white honky. And the blacks that were born here as well, because, you know, we're the same cultural. We might have a, you know, we're different in the sense that if it weren't for the black culture over here in the West, we'd still be dancing to bagpipes and Morris dancing. Wouldn't we? Let's be honest. But ultimately, our mindsets are the same. Because we're neither Talmudists nor are we fanatical Muslims. And we're certainly not Christian Zionists, are we? You know what I'm saying? That's our coming together point. It's look at what we're not to see where we mutually agree. And as I said earlier, I want to know now. We need to know, where are the Muslims that have been born here in the West? Where are you at, chaps? Because we need to know. Because things are moving faster and faster, and it's not going to get any better, is it? Because these fruitcakes are pushing like crazy. And focus to what's going on in Ireland. Take note what's going on in Canada. And also take note about what Tedros and Gates are doing in Australia. What they're telling the Australians to get ready for. And if you look on the, you know how we put up before the flight radar stuff where it shows the pass these places. South Africa and Australia at the moment are being pumped with these lines. So what are they up to? It's like they're doing it, they do little bits everywhere and all over the shop. Like here, in the early 90s, after the criminal justice bill, this is where they rolled out the CCTV extravaganza. And the Americans didn't really understand it, the degree to what they were doing here from the criminal justice bill. It didn't start to creep in there until 10 years after. In fact, it might have been even like 15 years after. So they put that section of it in here. They did the education first in America. They do parts of the whole agenda in different parts so that the masses don't wake up and see it. But as we're getting closer to this gig, so Asda, last week I went in the Asda, well, seeing as normal, I looked up, there's a screen there, and all of a sudden it's focusing with a yellow bloody square around my face. Now I didn't have my phone with me because I don't take my phone anywhere, I don't need to take it. So it might have got my face, but it didn't get an IP address. Right? Because what are they doing, these facial recognition? They pick up your face and they're picking up your IP address, either your phone, or if you've done the deed, it doesn't need your phone anymore, you've got an IP address. And then it fixes your face to the IP address. Then it's got you in the data bank. It can follow you around everywhere. So if you haven't been done, and you're going into these places, leave your phone in the car, take your cards out if you're using cards or your money, you're using it in your phone thing, and put your head down. Don't give it your face. That way you're not giving the data bank the data and information it needs. And Asda have done that this week in Accrington. And the screen is as you go in, but mainly they're centred around the self-service gig. There were tons of them, right? The entire self-service arena is full of them. So go back to queuing up and make them open them kiosks again. It really is down to you how you play this game. You can either sit back and go, oh, but I just can't be asked because I want to get home and watch curry. Or you can get a fucking grip, stop being a coward, grow up and start taking part in this move to buffer this shit show. So now you can see that everything that we've said to you for all these years about China is the blueprint. Now it's here. Facial recognition going up everywhere. So what's going up all over London? The LiDAR systems. They're saying actually they're that bright, they're damaging eyes, especially the pensioners. But then we also know that this obsession with halogen or LEDs and all this in car headlights and that. I mean, I have to wear sunglasses with they're just glasses with the UV screen on if I'm driving distance at night, because you get on a motorway now and all they need to do is put the barriers up a little bit higher, that's all, but that's not the intention. They're trying to wreck eyes. If you're trying to take over a nation, what better way to disable the nation than to turn them all blind? This is war doctrine. This is how war works. Yeah, and that's what all these agendas are there to wreck you, ready for when they make this final push, so that you're at a disadvantage. And if you're blind as a bat, same with all these Specsaver places, they're actually wrecking your eyes, people. They're giving you new prescriptions way above what you need. And I had this out with them. It weren't Specsavers. They were another one. And so I'd got my glasses the first time, and the only reason I needed some new ones because I scratched them to death, because obviously I didn't know how to look after glasses. I think it was my first gig with it. So I went in there and I said, look, can you have another set of these? Oh no, you'll have to come in and have another test. I said, no, just give me that. No, you'll have to come in. I said, all right, I'll have another test. So I had another test, and to come back with these glasses, I put them on, I couldn't see fuck all. I took them back, I said, I can't see with them. I can't see. I said, just give me a prescription of the old one, last lot. We can't do that. I said, no, you must, that's what I need. You can't say, you can't. Yes, but the government. I said, the government? I said, what the fuck's the government got to do with my eyeballs? And because they were nice and it were a private gig rather than the Specsavers, they said, oh, all right then. And I got a set of the older ones, and that's fine. And the ones that they gave me, which is about 4 years ago, which were that upgraded one, I've still got. And I still can't use them because I can't see. So they're giving you prescriptive each time you go to wreck your eyes. You need to see this. The greatest way to immobilise a target population is to wreck their eyeballs. If you can't see what you're doing, you can't see your enemy. You've got to start thinking war now, you know, and if you're not savvy with war, if you've just been watching 633 Squadron and Great Escape, if you don't actually know how war works, how it really operates at command level, you're going to be fucked. In fact, you just need to start listening to me, because I do understand war. War's been my game forever. My entire life. War. That's me. I know how they play. I know the game. And everything I've said to you tonight is an insight into this war game, what they're playing at. So pay great attention, but make sure you start to spread this to your offspring. It needs to be spread to the younger generations. They don't need to go for this fat-fingered, fake king's proclamation when it finally comes. Rant over. Who's joined us tonight? Let's have a look. Okay. Untitled says hello, and hello everyone, good evening. Untitled, Liverpool Council, boom, I made it. Well done to you. An evening. Liverpool, yeah, alright. Anthony says, alright, Sean, I do, folks. Hello, Anthony. Untitled says, I for one am life without fiction. First before others, all present and accounted for. From fertilisation to the last breath. Thank you for that, Untitled. Louise says, greetings all, evening to you, Louise. Anthony gives it the old clappy hands. Slipknot says, alright, Sean, Jack and everyone. Alright, Slipknot. PY Music says, evening all. Evening, Paul. Paul Sefton says, good evening, Sean and fellow inmates of the Wise Asylum. Good evening to you, Paul. Anthony gives it the clapping of the thumbs up, and Untitled gives it the Sunday night boogie. June says, evening all. Thumbs up. Evening, June. I need to do my glasses. I've steamed up with all that ranting. Anyway, Mike says, evening, Sean. Evening, Mike. Jerry Sonamic says, hello all in the Wise Asylum, driving and listening. Hi, Sean, lad. Hello, Jeremy, old China. You've got some shit going down in your pad, I'll tell you that, man. Whoo. Have you seen that black woman they've stuck on in Derry? Can't even speak English. And interestingly, when it first came up, the citations for who she was part of, they were saying it was Sinn Féin. Now apparently it's actually not Sinn Féin, it's SDP. Interesting. So it's just smoke and mirrors everywhere. And if you suck into initial, you're pretty fucked. Now, honestly, man. Yeah, so... Yeah, I mean, I don't like what's going on in Ireland because it's blueprint. And it's the fact that you're into Europe, you know, they still have to keep this blago in here as Brexit because they keep blaming it for what they did through Bookscript. Look what Brexit's done to your economy. It's not been fucking implemented, you dumbasses. The High Court stopped Boris proroguing Parliament. Brexit has not been implemented. And Boris didn't give a shit anyway. Where are we? Liverpool Council Watch tune. The information isn't bad either. It reminds me of my old state days. Good for that. The truth is sovereign, says I, Sean and all. Good evening to you. Blackwater Guard Circle, yes. Profiler X, good evening. Evening, Profiler. Lex says evening. Mark says hi, guys. Hi, Mark. Mew says morning, afternoon, evening, one and all. Welcome to the Wise Asylum by Sean. Pronouns amazing and fantastic. And hit that like button, cat. Will you, chaps? Get it? Bunged up. And you should comment on the video as well because apparently that kicks it up. So even if you're just talking bollocks, just talk bollocks and be nice, and it puts everything up. I know they're blocking it to death, but we can at least make it harder for them. Just talk babble on it. You know, have conversations with yourself on videos, under videos after. Just to whack it up with comments. And let's see if they take them off, like they used to. Stuart McKenzie says, big up Generation X. Damn right, if they can be asked. There's trouble with Generation X. They can't be asked. And they can't be asked to get involved in other people's shit. It's like, no, it's not my business. We need to get asked, guys, because we are creative. A lot more creative than any of the baby boomers, the millennials. In fact, that's not true, because a lot of the millennials, being Generation X flea bags, can be quite savvy. So I'll include the early millennials as well, from 1980. Because, you know, they are Generation X mum and dads, so they've got to be savvy at least. Where are we? Lex says, Sean, can you please tell me what your face name is, please? Sean House Young. S-E-A-N. Ched's one, he's probably still president. Yeah, I would say there's a lot of information to suggest that he's at least still commander-in-chief. In which case, all this shitty war in Ukraine is down to the Trumper, while he blames the Alzheimer. Yeah? He's a real chameleon, is Trump, you know. I mean, it's a mess. It is a fucking mess. If you look at it, there's elections across Europe this year. We've got elections in May here. We've got they're looking like they're going to leave it till last to November for the general. You've no fucking choice. They're all wankers. Every single one of them are operating for these bloodlines that we've been looking at. They're talking the same shit. Even Labour are pushing out that they're Israel. Why? Because, of course, the plan is for Christians and Muslims to go to war and annihilate each other, which is exactly what Albert Pike pulled together back in 1870s. That's the game. So they've encouraged Muslims to think everything's fantastic and fucking amazing just to get them embedded and act cocky. Act cocky enough to piss off the white hunkies so that when it does kick down with what they do in the Middle East, bang. It's done. Why? Because everybody's stupid. That's what it is. So if you think you're fantastic and amazing, whichever culture you come from, and you're falling for that gig, you really need to understand that you're still an infant. You're still watching Jack and Ori and Play School. Or Teletubbies if you're a bit older. That was the strangest shit gig I've ever seen. That's why I couldn't believe my kids liked it. Anthony Moore says it's all Boloctics is a circus. That's right. But it's going to bite. Police using Starlink on the drones now. Seen it today. I keep seeing these drones. See, we need shotgun. We need a lot of shotguns back in the mix. Just blow these drones up. Profiler X. Muskrat is the frontman for DARPO, NRO, ETC. Yeah, and I mean, he took over Twitter, and it's Goliath is the corporate side of what's took it over. It's an amalgamation of all the shitbags that you would expect. But my Twitter is fucking rammed censored. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable how censored it is. White Horse says, George Carlin, late 1950s, shouted out the truth through his stand-up comedy. Yeah. Anthony Moore says AJ's trial was cringe. Yeah, it was garbage. Just scared everybody off from exposing the ridiculously shit false flags that they keep doing. That they haven't done since the London Bridge knife attack. Because people were just blowing it out. Crisis actors, these actors have been in every single crisis. You know, that were all to stop people daring speak out about these false flags. But it obviously hasn't worked because they're not really doing any false flags apart from the one they did in Russia. 322, yeah? Which we sort of like prophesied they would. So Alex Jones's Billix. Odd TV is a great documentary on the topic. And you know, Stuart, it's gone a bit too far, some of that, in my opinion. There is a lot of them out there. There's a lot of people's wives that are males that we can see now. Like George H. Bush's wife, Barbara Bush, is a fella, clearly, that we didn't notice. Fanny Craddock. Have you actually looked at Fanny Craddock? Now, we grew up with that fruit bat on telly. It's a fella. It's as plain as fucking day. But I think they're just going a little bit too much when they're saying Alex Jones is Bill Hicks. Alex Jones is Alex Jones. Alex Jones started doing his thing in 1994. Yeah? And he weren't the fat fuck that he is now. You know what I mean? He looked like you'd expect a young lad to look, because he's younger than me. So no, I'm not having it that it's Bill Hicks, because it's not. And I suppose if you've only come to this stuff in the last 10 years, you're not going to know that stuff. But back in the day when I got on internet, all that were going down, Bill Cooper was the main guy that people looked up to, because he was real. And Alex Jones was there doing his thing, and Alex Jones were a potent mix back there in that day. He was the first guy I sort of like found, really, that I thought, okay, now it's John Wayne. And, but yeah, I mean, there weren't that many, back in the early, Arky were doing his thing, but there weren't that many big cheese dicks, like they're pulling them in now. And I mean, you've got, what's all this, all these guys going to be baptised and all this malarkey? Well, you can see what it's all about. They're getting ready to make everybody Islam. So, again, like I said at the beginning, you Muslims that are born here, third generation, you need to fucking quickly let us know where you're at. Because otherwise, that narrative, once they're in Middle East, it's game over. It's game over. Now is the only time to pull together trust. Forget Tommy Robinson. Tommy Robinson is 100% paid up Mongol, Khazarian shitbag. Remember, the elites of Israel are in their entirety Russian mafia, Mongolian, Khazarian. That's who they are. They're not Jews at all. They don't even claim to be Jews. That's who runs Israel. Netanyahu's Polish. But the Rebbe liked him, give him $1. And he's sucked it up ever since. There we go. I'm Widdicombe from Reform is Order of Gregory. Well, of course, they're all controlled opposition. That's how they do it. That's how they blag it. Good vid, says John. Thanks, John. Ched's one. Yeah, so hey, Cheds. More coffee. I've seen it. Tell him I'm fat. Okay. John says, Ireland's worst days are ahead of it. They are, but they do seem to be moving and they're doing it peacefully, which is good. But what they need to start to recognise is they have a right to move any barriers that are there. And that's it. Don't stand at the back of them barriers. Pick them up and fucking throw them out way. Yeah, I mean, a lot of these villages, they've got like 2,000 and 3,000 people in there. You've got to be having at least 1,500 males. See, this is the thing. The mindset has to change now. You can see now that the security forces are no longer what we gave respect for. The private companies, for one. So they're no more power than fucking McDonald's staff running around demanding your ID. That's just a reality. That's a point of fact. The mindset has to change, people. The systems that we all grew up with and had respect for have been co-opted. They're now operating against you. And until you see that, you're not going to be able to deal with these people. Yeah, if they put a barrier up, you remove it. Simple as. That's your right. It's your land. And these people are foreign forces, private security operating not for your nation, not for you, but for the UN and the EU. And the EU, of course, as I said before, and I've said it for years, is a inner temple gig. Everything that's set up in the EU is via the middle temple, belongs to the inner temple. The kids reckon none of their mates are falling for any conscription. Guitar Girl says, fucking good. And I've seen, and now, and this is something else I'm noticing now around here. There's a lot of white kids now in groups going around. And do you know what's pissing me off? Wherever they go, they're being followed by fucking coppers. Just the white kids. I'm watching this, and I don't fucking like it. Mariupol, Ukraine, being rebuilt super fast, old school shots, apartments, etc. Prefabricated, they planned this years ago. It's the Khazarians' homeland. We did a video on this last year. It's their original homeland. Putin is clearing the way for them to go back there, the elites, ready to annihilate 1/3 of the Jews that live in Israel. Yeah? There's a difference between Torah Jews and Zionist Jews. And the Torah Jews are making it clear they just don't get the airplay. That's the problem. And in that, because of that, people don't see that there's a difference. In the same way, there's a difference between Muslims and fanatics. There's a difference between Jews and Talmudists. And there's a difference between Christians and Zionist Christians. We need to see this, and hopefully in these live streams that we've been doing over these last 3 years, we've put enough information out there, or I've put enough information out there, for you to at least see that that is the game playing out. You mustn't suck into it. We mustn't suck into it. Jerry says, righteously, I shall stand on the hill and do. Love, love, love. White Horse Star, twinkle, twinkle. I can confirm that. I used to work for BT in 2003, and when people rang in for any reason, it would show a number withheld and the actual number next to it. Surely the facial recognition system has access to the driving licence passport data. Basis says White Horse. Well, yeah, I would have thought so. Well, I've missed some, haven't I? Sorry, it's flicked up. Ah, no wonder I'm way better. Asda just needs to toggle turning in on software to make you pay via biometrics. Yeah. Any face cams in store is signed up to the CBDC. Yep. Says Northern Element. Thanks for that. Solver-Mist gives it the pink hand with... What's coming out of that pink hand, Solver-Mist? Hello, me old China. From down under. Northern Element oil banks are currently grasping to get our biometric login on apps so they can cross-platform. Jerry says, don't know if you have those council bins with solar panels on them, cameras in them also. No, but when they first laid out these bins, which is, what, about 2005? I blew the fucking old whistle that they had chips in them. The fucking council shit themselves and had to explain, oh yeah, they do have chips in them. So I encouraged everybody to take it out and stick it under somebody's car. So they were whizzing around all over the shop. That would have been fun. I threw my deck great, of course, but I had some fun there because they weren't expecting that. And they couldn't deny it because as soon as I said it, everybody was looking on the bin because I told them exactly where they were. And there they were. Microchips in everybody's bin. Don't know if you've done that. Anthony Moore says, I wear blue block glasses when driving in the dark now. Yeah, you have to do, don't you? Otherwise it gives you a headache. It's not good. Solver-Mist, Specsavers insist too, they do. Solver-Mist on testing, yeah. It's a gig, it's an agenda to wreck your eyes. Because if you can wreck your eyes, you're easy. You're immobilised, you know. Star Twinkle, I learned today that even if you hide your phone number when phoning the police, they unhide your number and government ID comes up so they know who's calling. I think it's always been the case that they can actually see who you are, yeah. I've always operated from that standpoint anyway. John says again, good vid, thanks John. White Horse, surely the facial recognition system has access to the driving light. Yep, done that, bomb. Yep. Hewlett McGee says, I'm digging it. Good man. Steve Brand, bio-digital convergence, we are already transhuman. Well, if you go with that Flossie, what's she called? I can't remember her name. She says, yeah, he's done. Done gig. Profiler X, live to me, it's good title, a good thumbnail and meta tags. In the vid does the trick. I know BC before the censorship kicked off, I had several channels exposing the tribe, it was gathering steam. Unfortunately, my friend, everything I do on the internet, except the website, is completely and utterly controlled by either 77 Brigade or Unit 8500. Yeah, I watch them. When these live streams finish, they'll give me a number of how many guys have been on. 4 days down, it goes down. It's all gone down. And they'll take comments off, they take likes off. So that's what I'm saying. If we just... So when you put this video, just spent week just commenting shit all over it. Not abusive. And let's just put loads of comments up. Hit like about 40 million times. Get your granddad and your auntie and your cat to do it. And let's just see if we can see them messing with it. Liverpool Council Watch, I had to go, but I enjoyed the replay also. Should have known with the band name. Solve a miss. Oh, should have known with the band name. What do you mean, mate? Neil on Ed Sean, been saying it for a while now, says Jerry. We were told the chips on the bins were prizes for recycling. Weight means prizes. They're full of shit, aren't they? Honestly, it's just quite ridiculous. Right, crack on. Here we go. What did I want to kick off with? So just to give you... What are we on here? Flaming heck, I can gob off. We're an hour and 15 already. So this is just an insight. We'll start running through some of Bill Cooper's stuff as we move through live streams in future. But there's Bill Cooper. And he says exploration of the moon stopped because it was impossible to continue the hoax without being ultimately discovered. And of course they ran out of pre-filmed episodes. No man has ever ascended higher than 300 miles, if that high, above the Earth's surface. No man has ever orbited, landed on or walked upon the moon in any publicly known space program. If you doubt this, please explain how the astronauts walked upon the moon's surface enclosed in a spacesuit in full sunlight, absorbing a minimum of 265 degrees of heat, surrounded by a vacuum. William Cooper. And that, obviously, this were all put together in the 90s when Billy Boy were doing this. Just a reminder that the reason why we see Jews everywhere is because the New World Order pledged the arbitrator position through the Zoroastrian system to the Talmudic system, the Noahide shitbags. Yeah? Okay, so if that's in there, just gives you a bit more detail. We've looked at it before, but there's just a tad more detail involved in relation to what that actually meant in that one. So, David Cameron. Okay, David Cameron came on the scene all out of nowhere, Bullingdon club boy. They still had to sacrifice the firstborn, as did Gordon Brown. But David Cameron's married to the Astor family. Now, the Astor family are a ruling bloodline. She was born Samantha Gwendolyn Sheffield. She's the eldest daughter of Sir Reginald Adrian Berkeley Sheffield, 8th Baronet and landowner, and 3 times a descendant from King Charles II of England, and therefore descended from Merida Medici. By his first marriage to Annabel Lucy Veronica Jones, Samantha's parents split up for 5 years of marriage, and her mother married again to William Astor, 4th Viscount Astor, a minister in John Major's government, and she is now the Viscountess Astor. On the other hand, David Cameron's father family had a very long history in the world of finance. David Cameron's great-grandfather, Arthur Francis Levita of Panmure Gordon Stockbrokers, and his great-great-grandfather, Sir Ewan Cameron, London head of the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank, played key roles in discussions led by the Rothschilds with the Japanese central banker, later Prime Minister, Takahashi Korikiyo, concerning the selling of war bonds during the Russo-Japanese War. His great-grandfather, Ewan Allen Cameron, a senior partner with Panmure Gordon Stockbrokers, was also a notable figure in the financial world, serving on the Council for Foreign Bondholders and the Committee for Chinese Bondholders, set up by the then Governor of the Bank of England, Montague Norman, in November 1935. Cameron is a direct descendant of King William IV, 4th great-grandfather, and his mistress Dorothea Jordan, and thus 5th cousin twice removed of Queen Elizabeth II through his father's maternal grandmother, Stephanie Levita. Yeah, so there we go. Mistress, so he's a bastard. It's a bastard line, which is why they had to do the sacrifice. The ritual, there we go. Now, what the fuck are they on about with that? Here we have, clearly the horse is painted, running around, and they said there were 7 of them. So there's a symbolism in that. Some ideas what it could be, but I'm not going to make a claim because I don't actually know for sure what it is they're actually symbolising there, but it's symbolising something. And also this week was Princess Beatrice's ex-boyfriend found dead in hotel room. Now, Beatrice, I've looked at, didn't we? Had a look and said there's a strange, robotic side to it. But there's something that I hadn't noticed about this Prince Beatrice, and Camilla, which I think it comes up, but why do male members of the British royal family get circumcised shortly after birth by a Jewish mohel? It's so they can sell the foreskins to the girls so they can stick it in their lips. That's why they're doing it. There they have the mushroom hats on. On Tuesday, the ever-growing bond between the King and Kate, who we can't see, became official when he appointed his beloved daughter-in-law a royal companion of the Order of the Companions of Honour. But we still can't see her. They've talked nothing but about her, William, all this week, but nobody can see her. I think they're making a stand-in. They just can't get it right. So the royals have awarded themselves new titles today. Prince William becomes Great Master of the Order of the Bath. Kate is now Companion of Honour, which recognises achievement. Okay. Now that's an old photograph. Why can't we see the Kate? Billy the Shagger. The Kingdom of Jordan was established by the United Kingdom through the British Mandate of Palestine and then fully through the Treaty of London in 1946, which appointed the House of Hashemite as the reigning monarchs. So Jordan is another imperial orifice. And Queen Camilla allegedly cuts off Eugenie and Beatrice amid spy claims princesses were Sussex informants. So I wasn't aware that there was actually a bit of banter between Camilla, who is running around like she is the fucking queen, between Andy's flea bags. Interesting. And all files related to Prince Andrew's international business trips, meetings with politicians, etc. will not be released until at least 2065, after an FOI request was denied. Meanwhile, people mock us for reporting the Kiev allegations. Nothing to see here at all. There he is with his old bean, Epstein. And I found this as well, somebody suggesting that, because he certainly isn't the same William that was as a child, the nose gives that away. The late Jacob Rothschild had a similar alien skull like Prince William. Maybe Jacob is the real father of Billy the Shagger. That's very possible. And there you are, back to the old symbolism. So there's some symbolism going on here, I'm not so sure what it means. We may have been scammed by asylum seekers, admits the Church of England. Bit fucking late now, isn't it? They're all here. We may have been scammed by asylum seekers, admits the Church of England. Church with females, that's not how it works, is it? Not because I'm saying it's right or wrong, but if you're going with the doctrine, there's no such thing as females in churches. Cancer-causing forever chemicals found in Band-Aids, where they can get directly into the blood through open wounds, report warns. Well, cancer is something that's in the body that you need. It actually keeps you alive. It's just if it runs riot, usually because your body is acidic. So this idea that everything's carcinogenic fits in with the latest gig with the royals pushing it, doesn't it? The glare of car headlights could be a risk for heart conditions. Oh, as ever more vehicles use dazzling LED beams. Well, we've just discussed the fact that they wreck your eyes, but I've never had palpitations. So I'm not having that it has any effect whatsoever on the old art. And sales to Argentinian during the Falklands War. Newly declassified papers show London was aware of alleged deals providing weapons to its enemy during the 1982 conflict. I think what it's saying is they've opened, UK opens files on Israeli arms sales. That's right. In fact, if I just... UK in the summer, UK in the spring, UK in the winter, and UK during lockdown. But they're not controlling the weather. Remember that, it's a conspiracy theory. You know what I'm saying? It's a conspiracy theory. Muslim groups blast High Court school prayer ban ruling. Yeah, well, it's good that they've banned that because they're fucking praying it roads, for fuck's sake. Quite a pile from Muslim groups they're not used to being refused or said no to. Welcome to the world that many inhabit. Because the game now is going to go fully 100% against the Muslims. That's the gig for Israel. And Labour are not going to be any different. They're supporting Israel. Catherine Birbal Singh has questioned the level of legal aid awarded to Muslim pupils who lost a court battle over her school prayer ban. That's quite an haircut there for a Flossie. Because it's on you Muslims, you've got to see it. It's just going to cause more problems. You shouldn't be supporting stuff that's just clearly going to cause shit. MPs vote on smoking ban for those born after 2009. I've never heard anything so ludicrous in my life. Honestly. I really haven't. It's just so stupid. Well, Black and White Astor profiler X is 33-degree Mason. There's 2 branches. There's Super Fat Boris. Look at that fine body of a man. Eh? How would you like that on top of you, girls? You won't be able to ride him, would you, with that fat belly like that? 2 Rishi Sunak's wife's firms go under in pandemic owing taxman 623,000, including one which borrowed 1.3 million from the government-backed fund her husband launched in 2020. That's a lot of dosh. But they're all at it. Don't just look at Rishi as sucking it up. They're all, every single one. Labour, Liberal, Conservative, Greens. Oxford University College scraps St George's Day event, but will host Eid dinner. See, these are just scripts to piss people off. Because, of course, they're getting ready for this Islam v Zionism. Because I'm not a Zionist. I'm not a Muslim. I'm not particularly interested. But I will protect myself. H5N1 strain found in bird flu is found in milk for the first time in very high concentrations. Well, then somebody's put it in, says Tedros. Alright, well, I'm not sure I believe that. See, they get chickens, milk, cows, they just want to get rid of everything. Farmers are doing it for them. I regret to inform you that the called securivity has been approved by and is now being shoved into pork. How lovely is that? Well, there's 2 religions don't like pork. So they're not going to be fussed about that, are they? They're going to think, it's good! EU finally admits it needs Britain more than we need it. The EU are desperate. They need access to the UK jobs market and UK universities given their high unemployment, poor unions and low wages in many countries. We must never agree to free movement. Damn fucking right we shouldn't. We've got enough as it is. I like the fact the French have started popping the dinghies in Dunkirk before they set off. The Cheshire Cat think tank revenues hit 140 million as governments pay for advice. Former UK twat institute set to expand over 40 states as growth continues despite criticism of Saudi work. He's in talks with FT. One of the first things I say any Prime Minister is President. Do you have a plan? Says the Blurite. Labour back the CV thing for the next thing. We will be back this current government in making sure the message is sent out loudly and clearly that the thing is the best way to protect you and your loved ones. So, of course, obviously, that we're getting ready for this treaty thing, which they're saying has been scrapped, but that just could be to take the heat off. Don't take your eyes off it. Labour refuses to guarantee lower train fares under potential government because, of course, we're talking about nationalising it, which, to be honest, I'm a Tory, but I think nationalising our infrastructure would probably be a fucking good thing. It employed millions of people and money stayed in country. And Jimmy Savile's little bum boy says, cannot be trusted with our nation's defence. To stop him, we Conservatives must demonstrate we can be. Yes, it's all about defence now with Tories. Whoa. Labour will not deport a single asylum seeker to Rwanda, Yvette Cooper confirms. Under Labour, illegals will never be deported and millions more will flood into the UK. Labour will collapse what is left of our borders, NHS housing, public services and country. Well, I never liked her because she was coming straight out to Common Purpose and there were a fella at the same time, I forgot his name. Here he is. Does he look like he's on smack or a whiz? A bit of both. I think one eye says smack, the other eye says whiz. Minister has been accused of engaging with fantasy after issuing guidance to Scotland's NHS that states it's not just women who experience menopause symptoms. Well, I believe they've been showing someone up their arse, men, to give them that idea of feeling. And as the gig plays out, 60% of Muslim men don't work, 78% of Muslim women don't work, Muslim families average 5 to 7 kids, and they've got murder London, murder Birmingham, murder Leeds, Blackburn, Sheffield, Oxford, Luton, mosques, 3,500, Sharia courts, 130, Sharia councils, 50. All this achieved by 4 million. Oh, it's not good, is it? And UK shithole. But we can't blame these people specifically because they're all Crown agents, and we need to forget that because we're all grown up. Tommy Robinson should have you think it's because we've been taken over. No, these are just people that have been implemented in there by the Crown, the Empire. London, Roland Rat, the Smackhead, and one in Wales now. Khan, the Mayor of London, has pledged to make the Thames swimmable within 10 years. What's he going to do there then? Look, he's a complete twat, isn't he? Nation of Islam, him. He's the reason we've got all these immigrants. Because of his legal, because he was a lawyer. The legal cases he carried on back in the day. Khan's office, we caught bribing scientists with 800 grand to fudge data on US pollution reduction. Of game being caught lying on the paper mal scheme. What an odious lying little cretin he is, says somebody. Sadiq Khan outside Woodhill prison in 2004 protesting against the imprisonment of jihadis. This is the Mayor of London. So we're actually protesting against people that want to kick the shit out of white donkeys. It's not good, is it? Let's be honest. He's a Crown agent. The Muslims haven't got him in because they're smart. He's a Crown agent. To excite the Muslims and to piss off the whites. That's what it's about. That's the game. You know, when you're grown up, you can see it like that. Is that it? On the old UK gig? That seems to be going on for a long time. What's afoot here? Sadiq Khan has accused his chief rabbi of singling him out for criticism because he's a Muslim. But then he's been grovelling his little tits off rest of the week. So we're bigging it up there. Oh, look what you're doing to me because I'm not. Oh, Pelosi likes him. I was pleased to meet with Mayor of London Sadiq Khan to support his leadership and discuss his efforts to achieve a fairer and more equitable London for all, says the fruit bat. God's sake. It might be a Fabian, but Fabian Society, LSE, all come out of Adelphi House. They all come out of Adelphi House, all of them. Britain can no longer neglect defence. Telegraph View. Defending what? Ukraine? Israel? No. Read them on Blighty. Read them on Blighty to stop these boys running around wanking. 77k Brits who could suddenly be called up to fight if World War III breaks out. February, former senior Army Commander General Sir Richard Barron has warned the public should be prepared for conscription to repel a potential Russian attack. That's 17th of April. Sorry, 20th of April. They're talking it up, people. Sunak is right to put Britain on a war footing. Its meaning goes beyond defence. Defence meaning no offence, remember. Defence, no offence. That's the game. And they have a ministry all about it. Look at them, you've got crap hats there, look. Rishi Sunak's spending boost is good news, but it does too little about the forces manpower shortage, writes Con Coughlin. There's a dangerous hole in Britain's defence plans. Yeah, that's because you fucking wankers are running it. Look at all them old crap hats everywhere. No wonder it's all going on. They're all fucking nut jobs. Oh, Rishi Sunak bangs all illegal inquiries into Israeli violations of international law. Complicit UK officials protecting the backs as the Israeli narrative sours. I don't know. The little Roland Rat. He does look like Roland Rat, doesn't he? Tonto Sunak. And of course, Cameroon, the Foreign Secretary, has completed a historic tour of all former Soviet Central Asian states and Mongolia to drum up support for the West along Russia's southern border. Yeah, well, that's another blank. And Netanyahu said he does not recognise the court in Hague and he will not hand over to them even one soldier of Israel who committed war crimes. So he's actually admitting they did. Under my leadership, Israel will never accept any attempt by the Hague Criminal Court to undermine its. And that's enough of that garbage. The Polish boy. and back to the old Church of the Fruit Bats. Rockefeller plan for the BRICS New World Order. Why the United States must join the BRICS, a new international order for mankind. There's one face missing out of that lot. It will be standing above them. New BRICS member Iran calls for digital currency systems this year. See, they're pushing it. They're pushing it and blaming them, aren't they? When really it's the whole shitbags. Fucking look at this. What do them people look like? What does he actually look like? What is that app supposed to mean? Do you know there are two early Holocaust tales from the Jewish Babylonian Talmud? They say 4 billion Jews were killed by Romans and later 64 million Jewish children were wrapped in scrolls and burned alive. What utter shit. But no wonder Jews hate everybody. 4 billion, that's a lot of people. And 64, I don't think there's ever been 4 billion Jews on the fucking planet. Rugged good looks are sold last century for modern men. Scars, blemishes and laughter lines are decidedly out of fashion, says some knob who's pushing Botox. Also, they want boys now on the Botox with big lips. You know they'll be sticking it, won't you, in the dicks? Make it bigger! Give us your foreskins. You can see it, guys. That's what boys will do. Bill Gates warns Australia to prepare for the next thing, which could be man-made and far more brutal than the other thing. Oh my God. There we go. And the Tetros is doing the same. So that's going on in Oz. Canada's having Q codes. Ireland's getting screwed. Here, it hasn't really kicked off yet. Congratulations, Dr. Anthony Fruitbat, winning the Stern Medal. Your commitment to evidence-based decision-making and speaking truth to power had an impact far beyond the US, says another bunch of suited wankers. China to rethink Taiwan seizure after Iran failed attack on Israel. So China's now decided it's not having it. Maybe all the weapons are crap. Maybe the gunpowder is wet. And they've all realised that all the weapons are shit. So US Mike Johnson says, saying that Israel's war on Gaza is biblical. Have you all heard of Washington's Breakfast Club? Speaker Mike Johnson's on Newsmax promoting his war funding bill. For those of us who are believers, it's a biblical admonition to stand with Israel. Yeah, Schofield Bible, you numpty. Republicans erupt into open warfare over Ukraine aid package vote. It's 60-odd billion he's promised them. Fucking hell. It's 90-odd billion, including Israel and something else. I mean, while countries are burning and they're throwing money around like confetti. Well, because the war machine needs it. My suspicion is that this guy is a disciple of an altogether different religion. Russell Brand turned into devil and his eyes went black as he assaulted me, claims woman. Ooh. Yeah, I could see that in him, definitely. Definitely. I mean, just looking at his behaviour in the past, he's definitely, if he's not possessed, he's obsessed. President Putin says if oil producers in the Middle East stop using the US dollar, it will be the end of the dollar. So it's the petrodollar, not the real dollar. You remember, all oil's petrodollar. It's not the real dollar. The petrodollar is debt. More. Anyway. On July 19, 2010, Norma Jean Young, Donald Young's mother, no relation, who is in the 80s, spoke about her thoughts that her gay son was killed by President Obama to preserve Obama's image and ensure his political future as president. So one of Obama's mates apparently were killed. Germany passes gender self-identification law allowing infants to transition, imposes massive fine for dead naming. Dead naming? Is that the new buzzword? Well, I don't know. Never heard of it before. Donald Trump says Ukraine's survival is important to US. Oh, he's changing his tune now. He was Putin's best mate before. Now it's King Cyrus is showing himself, I think. King Cyrus, the Zoroastrian arbitrator. Lorenzo Borghese is the son of Prince Francesco Morgi Louis Costanzo Borghese. His American wife Amanda Lee. His notable paternal ancestor includes his older sister Pauline Bonaparte, Borghese Pope, blah blah blah. And they're supporting Trump. That's why I put that up. It says in the background, "In Trump we trust." So there we can see some of these oligarchy families well behind Trump. And Trump was advised by Eric Prince and Joseph Smith, who were both Knights of Malta, and they were both executives of the private military company Blackwater. Blackwater was involved in child trafficking scandals. Eric Prince founded Blackwater, and he didn't spend one day in jail. Trump, Hoskins, Mizuswa, Joseph Smith, Papadopoulos, and two others. And joined the military as a senior and earned up to 75 grand bonus, says the United States, to the baby boomers. You want to get hold of your estates, people? They want you all snotted, one way or another. They want the white honkies and the black guys to war. At least the native Western ones. Russia has now the right to confiscate all Western assets in Russia, worth more than 288 billion, Russian Parliament Speaker says. The West may lose 288 billion if Russia confiscates. I don't think it will, to be honest. Still dependent on West for everything it does. EU migrant fallout. Slovakia passes law to ban Islam from being registered as a religion. Slovakia has passed a law which will effectively ban Islam from gaining official status as a religion in the latest signs of a growing anti-Muslim sentiment across Europe. Yep, the plan's working well. Ain't it just? And some members of the Israeli War Cabinet have proposed an immediate retaliatory strike. This was called off, however, due to pressure from US President Joe Biden, according to the New York Times. I think that might have been last week, actually, not this week. Because I didn't do these last week, did I? So there were quite a few in there from the week before. And he doesn't recognise, so he's... Yeah, there we go. That's the end of that. Now, I have something I want to show you. It's brief. For people that are into the tradition, it just gives you that little bit of extra data to understand my ramblings. And it's just a bit of data on the origins of Freemasonry, the discussion. And it says, did Venetian merchants establish Freemasonry in Europe long before the Knights Templar? One truth we know today is that the fifth science holds the position of scapegoat for the bloodlines that arbitrate the great work of the ages. Now this is, see Mr. Locke's letter and his manuscripts. It's John Locke, Preston's Illustrations of Masonry, Book 3, Sec 1, and it says, I say with respect to the actual form of the lodges and not as to the substance of their mysteries, for there had existed Freemasons long since in England who pretended neither to descend from the Knights Templar nor the Grand Lodge of Scotland. This is to be seen in a manuscript written 250 years ago and still preserved in the Bodleian Library at Oxford. This manuscript is a copy of certain questions written about 100 years before by Henry VI in his own hand. The date then of the original is about 330 years back, as Henry VI departed this life in 1471. So this is John Locke, yeah? So there it's pretty clear that the Masons in the origin on England never claimed anything to do with Knights Templars or anything to do with the fruitcakes in Aggie Squeezerland. Locke suspects that in those times of monkish ignorance, the Masons might have mistaken the Venetians for the Phoenicians, but Masons and even the monks had by means of the Crusades learned to distinguish between the Phoenicians and the Venetians. So that's an interesting thing. There is a distinction between the two. There are two important remarks to be made on this manuscript. First, that the adept questioned on the origin of Masonry makes no mention of the Templars. On the contrary, he says that all the important secrets of which it is in his possession were brought into Europe by Venetian merchants coming from the east. And that's Comid Sereste Shrom, the SDN Venetia, third answer. Locke suspects that in those times of monkish. So again, this is coming from John Locke. That the mysteries had been brought from the east by the Venetians. All Masons agree that the Templars learned them in the east. Venetians taken these mysteries whence the Templars afterwards did. and whose history had not yet been incorporated with that of Freemasonry. Nothing was more natural than the answer made by the Mason to Henry VI that the mysteries had been brought from the East by the Venetians. All Masons agreed that the Templars learned them in the East. It is very natural that the Venetians, so famous in those days for their commerce in the East, should have taken these mysteries, whence the Templars afterwards did, and whose history had not yet been incorporated with that of Freemasonry. But the reader will remark that everything leads us back to Manes, to the countries whence it is well known the sect and its mysteries spread into Europe. Knights Templar versus Knights Hospitaller. The maritime republics of Genoa and Venice often clashed. It's very true, and of course the English Red Cross flag was actually a Genovese ensign, naval ensign. So the maritime republics of Genoa and Venice often clashed. The first major conflict, the War of Saint Sabas in 1256, was over control of Acre in the Kingdom of Jerusalem. Genoa was aided by the Knights Hospitaller and Venice the Knights Templar. So it's pretty clear when you can see there that actually England's original connection to that area was actually to the Genovese. So the Knights Hospitallers actually came out of Venice. No, sorry. The Knights Templar came out of the Venetian side, whereas the original Knights Hospitaller, which are Malta, Knights of Malta, originally were Genovese. And it's not until the... I think they actually amalgamated the Genovese and the Venetians to some point, but the Venetians were always in control because they, of course, are the black nobility. So again, just a little bit more insight. The Freemasonry is older than we think, and it certainly had nothing to do with the Knights Templar in its origins. And there we have a little picture of the two flea bags. Now, perhaps the best known portion of the Regius is found in line 61 to 66, which read, "The craft came into England, as I now say, in the time of good King Athelstan's day." And Derbyshire Freemasons put up this on August the 13th, 2019. It says, perhaps the best known portion of the Regius is found in line 61 to 66, which is red, so that's where it comes from. So the Derbyshire Freemasons actually put that up. So they do know, the Freemasons of England, that this solemnisation of it is absolute shit. Why then do they allow... why are they allowing this? And there's a copy of the Regius. And this I picked up today, where they do claim Luciferianism, don't they, today? So of course I said they've been taken over by the Solomons. So we could now say that this is exactly what they're building, with blood. So it shall be written, so it shall be done, says the scroll. And there we have old Lucifer whispering in the lug hole of the Masons, now building upon the blood of the nations, the people. And that's just a little insight I just thought I'd put out there just to help people understand that there's a lot of data out there to show that what I keep popping on about isn't just nonsense. Now what I did this afternoon is just put up a shitload of links of interest off my website. So it goes to Mithra, Trump, King Cyrus, John Adams Street Gang, which is Adelphi House, which is where everything on these islands is centred, the corporate and the communism, LSE, all come out of there, Royal Society of Arts, everything comes out of Adelphi House. So this left-right paradigm is garbage, and you only need to understand Adelphi House, or the John Adams Street Gang as I call them, to see that. Literary history of the Adelphi and its neighbourhood in profile. Corporate head of the Secret Society's Chatham House. Corporate head of the Secret... oh, I've got that up twice. RSA, Royal Society of the Arts. How Christianity became a Zionist storm. Oliver Cromwell, Mulatto Puritan. Sir Isaac Newton, Chronology of Ancient Kingdoms. Definition Monarchy. King Edward VII and his court. Second Balfour Declaration. Corporate judiciary moves to take over the United Nations under the yoke of the Council of Europe. Winston Churchill on Zionism versus Bolshevism, 1933 bankruptcy declarations, Was a unlegislated or unlawful coronation oath offered in 1953? Yes. History of Freemasonry, Albert Gallatin Mackey. That's the Prussian knight, no high judge. Freemasonry deception, the blue and red cross. The beehive symbolism in Freemasonry. History of Freemasonry, Albert Mackey. Rosicrucianism and Freemasonry. How and why British Freemasonry changed, allowing the mafia monarchy to reign over us. That's taken from Greg Allett's stuff. Rome to Templars to Freemasonry, we face the same enemy. That is an excellent read. I put that together about 2011, originally. Ancient Egyptian Arabic Order of the Nobles of the Mystic Shrine. Pharaoh and his legions and the Mark slaves, relating to circumcision. Scarlet and the Beast, the war between English and French Masonry. What is the obsession with ancient Egypt by the priesthood seeking the reptile? What is the Crown Temple? Walpole's Whigs privatising the Crown and take over the East India Company and the Church of England. In profile, a British Almanac, that's an interesting read. The Royal Society, a very well paid government department pushing climate change. On Lucifer, what's it all about? The royal lineage of our noble and gentle families. Major General Gerald Cavendish Grove, the 6th Duke House, blah, 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 blah. I put that out, and not long after that, oh, he died. Yeah. British Foreign Office communications in Palestine, 1940 to 1946, another interesting read. Lancashire Constabulary, a puppet of Israel's nice. Why St. George, has England's history been fake, pre-14th century? Blueprint for the New World Revolution, the spirit of militarism. The Geneva Bible, the Jewish Puritan pilgrims, and vaccination genocide, which was first carried out against the Native Americans. Interesting read. Historical fact shows that Judaism is an inversion of the Hebrew tradition. Understanding Jewish culture, dialogue is the way. UK High Court judged Bibles for implementing the no-hiding courts. The real line of the House of David, idolatry, what you need to know. Origin of throwing children into the fire. Shabbatai Zevi and the Sabbatine Frankish chronology. Babylonian priesthood and its influence in India and China. Gnostic tradition controlling Islamic end-time theory? Proceeds of crime, the rise of Islam, the kings of Israel. The Austrian Auspitz Jewish bankers, the hidden band nobility. Journey into the etymology of words. Prophecy, remembering what was to see what might become. In profile, Vatican II, the Templar Secret Societies and the One World Religion. In profile, the Society of Jesus, 33rd General Congregation launches multiculturalism and the new religion of climate change. Understanding the World Economic Forum and the United Nations, the Double-Headed Eagle, Aldo Brandini, Lucifer and his servants, Footprints of the Jesuits, R.W. Thompson, Undermining the Vatican, Nostre Aetate, Rome's British East India Company, The Secret Instructions of the Jesuits. Did the Jesuits write Shakespeare? Well, no, I don't think they did. The Laws of Nation are not the laws of state. Undermining the canon law, Emissaries of the Holy See. As Jesuit Pope Francis handed the Vatican to Bolshevik atheist communist China. And a film there from 1943 on the occult forces. Very interesting watch. In profile, Wilhelm Wundt, Psychological Programming of Children. Modern Warfare Strategy Against Populations, coordinated by the Bilderberg Steering Committee. Endgame in the West, Time for a Rebirth of the Militias. When a government becomes a corporation, what you need to know. How the child and adult trafficking networks operate. What is happening in my town and who is responsible. Is history a big lie? Understanding Tartaria. Tartaria, the other side of the equation. Hip-Hop Crime Syndicate and the Drug Council. And in profile, the roots of the hip-hop agenda, Islam and paedophiles and cults. And there endeth the gig I wanted to get across tonight. So, what are you guys saying? And then we'll ring it off. So we've done that. Okay, well, I think you've been busy listening there. We were told the chips on the bin, yeah. Sorry, Sean, last comment was in regards to change of mindset. Okay, I got you. Clearly the part of the fire week, Sean. Absolutely. As I said, the last ritual is on the night, midnight on the 1st. Which pulls it into the 2nd. So you're going to get about 5th of May. before you get away from that energies that's been pulled up, because they do these rituals everywhere across the world, you know, so we're all picking that energy up, and if of course they're targeting you, it's even worse. But get to the 5th of May and you're pretty free of all that energetic magnetism that they create, and you can crack on. So it's always worthy, you know, thinking in those terms, because they're all doing it everywhere. Where are we there? Profile, black and white horse, Freemasonic, absolutely. And Jerry says, Boris Sloth, AU guys, yeah. Calm the Fabian, yeah, which is a plan, says Profile. Jed's 166. 666 minutes of the day equals 11:06. Reversed is 9:11. Oh, well, I'd never actually, I'd never considered that, in all truth. So yeah, there you go. Oh, there was some interesting data in there, but more, as I said, as we began, you know, make sure you get your younger generations to understand that these people are going to attempt to force them to go and fight a war for the fruitcakes that have absolutely nothing but hatred for the white race and the black race as well. They hate the blacks. In fact, they hate everybody. But while they're using you, they won't make it known that they hate you. And that's definitely the game they're playing at the moment with the Muslims, which is rather sad. But unfortunately, that's the reality we find ourselves in today, whether we like it or not. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining me, mods. Thanks for modding. I hope you have a decent week. I hope the weather stays fine for you and you can have a bit of chill and get in that garden. And I will say, thanks for joining. Till the next time.
Iran again.